Hi, I'm Angie Hilton and welcome to Unbreakable Entrepreneurs. As business owners, major challenges are inevitable. So how do we steel ourselves to weather the storms? Here, you'll find real-life stories of resilience, as well as tips from thought leaders and mental health experts on how to become unbreakable entrepreneurs. 18th Amendment bar owner Gorge Camorra is a much-loved Geelong figure, and not just for his ability to make a mean cocktail, but behind all the success and smiles, he has been facing some major challenges with his mental health. In this podcast, Gorge bravely opens up about his struggles in the hope that it will encourage other men of his age to do the same. A quick warning before listening. We'll be covering potentially triggering mental health topics. If you're feeling uneasy afterwards, please contact the Partners in Wellbeing program on 1300 375 330 or Lifeline on 131144. Gorge, getting the coffee in this morning. Are you feeling a little shady?
I'm feeling a little dusty.
What happened? What happened last night?
We had a massive night. I hosted a cocktail competition in Melbourne and we did the after party, and I went to the after party after the after party and pretty much got back at about 4 a.m. So, but I'm good now. I'm okay. I've had my coffee and a couple Panadols and I'm sweet.
Right as rain. But that's what, like, if you imagine you're judging a cocktail competition, is the whole night cocktails like one after the other, all trying different things?
Yeah, pretty much. So the way it worked yesterday is I was the host, so it was all filmed. We had a full production crew filming it, which was awesome. And then after that, I was invited to a Bombay Sapphire dinner. So it was like a gin immersion dinner that had cocktails and a 4-course meal interacted, and the room was changing colours for every drink, and it was really cool. And then we went and caught up with all the hospitality people that I know in Melbourne, because it's been pretty much 2 years since I've gone out properly in Melbourne. So it was great to just catch up with everyone.
So you had to make it a big one.
It's hard not to, like you go to every venue and everyone wants to give you shots and buy you drinks, and so definitely take advantage of it.
Now, before we go on, if there's people listening that haven't met you at the 18th Amendment or one of your famous bars, can you give them a snapshot of who you are and what you get up to?
Yes, so I'm Gorge Camorra. I'm the owner of the 18th Amendment bars in Ballarat, Geelong, Manhattan Bar, Geelong. We've just opened up Queenscliff as well, 18th Amendment, and in the process of renovating a new bar called Non-Disclosure in Little Melbourne Street as well. So, yeah.
And when's that due to open up?
I've been saying 2 months for the last year. So having a few issues with permits and stuff like that. So I'm hoping within the next 3 months. Mm-hmm. Hoping, please.
Fingers crossed. Now, tell me, where did it all start for you? What were you doing before making cocktails, and how did you land in that field?
Yeah, so I pretty much grew up in Corio, so I'm still a bogan at heart, and I did air conditioning when I left school after year 12, and did air conditioning for 16 years, and at that 16-year point, I think I was 32 at the time, I was DJing. I just took up DJing. I enjoyed it. I was working in other venues in Melbourne and Geelong, and one day it was two friends of mine and I were sitting around, and I said, I really want to DJ in my own venue. And they said, hey, let's open a nightclub. And we pretty much did a 4-hour course at Buckley's, and we learned how to pour a glass of wine, make a Toblerone cocktail and pour a beer. And we opened up a nightclub in James Street called Static in 2004. And we just didn't know what the hell we were doing. It was just like a crash course in hospitality. And I'd shut down my air conditioning business to do that. So I had to make it work. My other two partners had other businesses in Geelong at the same time, so they were okay. And I pretty much learnt really, really quickly, found out that I hated nightclubs, the fights, the violence, the drugs and everything. And after 2 years, I said, no, I sold and I opened up Geelong's first ever cocktail bar called Cloud 9 in 2006. And just from there, it was a little bit hard at the time because I've never worked in a venue that I haven't owned. So I craved to learn, the trade of bartending and cocktails, and no one would mentor me. I couldn't even get a shift for free in Melbourne to work up there because it was like, oh no, who's this guy? And I did YouTube, I did Google, and I pretty much like self-taught. And yeah, I just sort of, it became a lifestyle. And after that, after many, many years, started entering cocktail competitions and started having a bit of a success. And from there, it kind of, it really blew up, like I've represented Australia a few times overseas in cocktail comps and did pretty well. And from there, everything sort of opened. And I just had this vision of having like a really high-end cocktail bar in Geelong. But at the time, Geelong, I don't think was ready. And yeah, I started collecting furniture and all sorts of stuff for this new venue that I was going to open, but I didn't know where it was going to be and I didn't know when I was going to do it. And 6 months after planning for it, we opened up in Little Mallet Street, and it's just been like more than could ever imagine. We've won so many awards, and it's branched out into other 18 venues, and we're internationally recognised. And yeah, it's cool. I'm really passionate about Geelong, and I want to bring something to Geelong that we've never had, and show the world that we can do in Geelong anything that the bars in London, New York, Paris are doing. We're up there with them, and we honestly are. And it's just been fantastic. Like the support in Geelong, it's from the day we opened, we on average have 200 people on the wait list every Friday, Saturday night, to the point where I've opened up other venues like Manhattan Bar around the corner. So people go there and wait to get a table at 18. So it's been really cool.
That is such an amazing story. And to step into 18th Amendment, you feel like you're being transported somewhere. What was that vision? Were you basing it on something you'd seen before? And how would you describe it to the people that can't see it right now?
Yeah, so the whole concept was, my family background is wrought iron. So my dad ran a wrought iron business in Geelong. My brother now has the business. My grandfather did it, my uncles. I was the first son that didn't do wrought iron. And so if you go to 18th Amendment, the front door says Paco Wrought Iron. It's Dad's business and now my brother's. So the whole concept was walking up the stairs. I wanted to make it look like you're walking into an old warehouse, like a welding warehouse. And when you open that door, which is like a lathe handle, and walk in, you're transported back to 1920s Chicago. So the 18th Amendment bar is based. The 18th Amendment was the law that brought in prohibition. So in between 1920 and 1933 in America, it was illegal to drink alcohol, sell alcohol, transport, and so forth. So all these bars popped up that were illegal speakeasies. So you would knock on the door and say the code and so forth. And that's the whole concept, right? I wanted people to walk into the venue and go, oh, wow, like I'm not in Geelong anymore. I'm going back, 80, 90 years and so forth. And the concept, and it was kind of weird. It's if you come into 18th, it was pretty much my brain for the 6 years prior. It's everything that I'd planned in my head. We did. My brother and I did the full renovation ourselves. It took 9 months. So I'm not a decorator or anything like that. We did the whole thing, and yeah, it's just my brain, how it was, and just made it come to life, really, is the best way to explain it.
So you could visualize it, and then to actually see it come to life, what is that feeling like? It must be phenomenal.
It's amazing. Like, I still come in, I'm sitting here right now, and sometimes I've got to pinch myself and go, wow, this is the venue that I always wanted. It's kind of, I guess, with Cloud 9, it was the first ever cocktail bar in Geelong. And at the time, like, the decor was different. And I renovated that myself too. But this is really like a lot higher level than Cloud 9 was. So the fact that it's kind of funny, it's in nearly 20 years I've been in the industry, it's only been in the last 5 years since 18th Amendment opened that I've actually like made good profit, and I've actually, we stepped it up. The staff that I've got are amazing. They treat the venue like it's their own, and I feel as though I was treading water now if I look back all those years until I got to this point. But it was just, I had to learn, like I look back at the cocktail menu from Cloud 9 and I sort of laugh at it. I go, oh my God, I can't believe that we had those cocktails, but everyone liked it. It was, I get people all the time say, oh, wow, like 18's a lot better than Cloud. And I say, but you got to remember when Cloud 9 opened in 2006, we were busy, people still, like you came in, and this is, we've just like elevated it a bit more. And it's amazing. Like it's really cool. So
well, there are times along the way, because we're seeing the success story of it now, but in the lead up, did you think, oh, this is all too much, it's too hard? What were the stumbling blocks and how did you get through them?
I think for me the stumbling blocks was I felt, I don't know if it was ego or something like that, but I wanted to be recognized in the industry. So the biggest stumbling blocks that I had was trying to learn about cocktails. So as I said earlier, no one would give me a chance to work in their venues. So there's certain venues that I said, can I just come here and work like every Thursday night for free? I just feel like I need to learn off someone. They said no. Nowadays I go to these venues and I train their staff, right? So it's really just keep pushing forward. I can remember probably for the first 6 years that I did cocktail bartending, I entered every single cocktail competition. I'm talking 20, 30 cocktail comps a year.
Wow.
And was never selected to jump on stage and perform and create it. And at one point I was like, oh, I'm just going to give up. I'm sick of it. And then I was told, you know what, like, why? You need to sort of push harder. And I eventually got into my first cocktail comp in 2011. Considering that I started venues in 2004, it was 2011, and I got up on stage, and I love performing on stage. It's my favorite thing, and I won that comp. That was the first ever national competition, and from there things changed. Then people started, wanting you to be in their competitions. And from there, it's sort of like the ball keeps rolling and so forth. But that was the main thing. And now when I look back on it, it was like, why was I so hungry to be recognized and so on? It was like a branding yourself sort of thing. But apart from that, everything's been pretty smooth. I've got a team that I can walk away for a month and I have no problem worrying about the venues, which before I used to have super high anxiety if I was going to leave and go on a holiday. But they do all the hard work and everything. Amazing. They don't need me. It's awesome. Oh, yeah.
You've set it up perfectly. So when you talk about cocktail comps, I've never been to one. Are you up on stage? Are you doing the Tom Cruise? Are you flipping things? What happens?
So there's no flipping. That's called flair bartending. I'm too uncoordinated to do that. I attempted to do that at one point and was mucking around behind the bar a few years ago and threw a bottle and it smashed the glass in the in my fridge. And I thought I better give it away. It's pretty much, there's a lot of different cocktail comps. So it can be anything from submitting a cocktail and then standing in front of hundreds of people and presenting your cocktail to we're in a competition a few years ago, Damien, who's my group manager, and I, where they sent us to New Zealand, and it was like jump and then run all the way up the stairs and do a mystery box challenge like on MasterChef and create a cocktail. There's been ones where you've got to do written exams and blind tastings, and they're all different, but the perks are if you can win an Australian title, you get to travel to the global final, and it's normally somewhere really cool. Like, so I've done New Zealand, Morocco, Iceland, Cognac in France, London. Yeah, so I love free trips.
So you've won the Australian title?
Yeah, I've won a few. I've never won. So I've won, I don't even know. I've won a lot of Australian, titles, but I've never won a global. I stopped competing 4 years ago, and I'm just back into it now. So I'm about to start this year. I'm going to give it a crack. I've come. We won for the one in New Zealand. We were part of an Australian team, which we won. So we're the reigning world champions still, because they haven't held that competition for the last 6 years. But as far as an individual competition, I've come second and third every time. So I don't think I've entered a cocktail competition that I haven't placed first, second or third. But I want to be the oldest person to win a cocktail global final one day. That's my sort of thing that I'm going to go for.
How old are you now?
50.
50? You turned 50 this year?
Yeah, 50 last year.
Last year.
18. Yeah, 50 going on 18.
No big party?
Yeah, it was. No, there was no party. I'm going to have a 50th this year. So I'm just going to, it's in August. So that.
In your new party house?
Yeah.
I did see that on Facebook.
No, moved into the new place on the weekend, and it's going to be good.
So when your cocktails that you actually go in the competitions for, you're creating the what am I trying to say? You're creating the cocktail from scratch. It's not anything people have seen before, and then you're presenting it in a unique way. What are your award-winning cocktails? How do you describe them?
So for me, my probably strength in competing is my presentation. I've dressed up as French maids. I won a cocktail competition once in my karate gi.
You dressed up as a French maid? Did you say?
Oh yeah, it was horrible. Oh my God,
You would not make an attractive woman.
On. I'd make a horrible woman. But I enjoy the presentation and the fun of it, and I think the reason why have never won a global final, and for a few years there, I was pretty much every comp I was making second and third, is because the drink was actually my weakest point. Yeah. So I like to get up and I feel really comfortable in front of a crowd. It's no problem. So normally it'll be, let's say for example, a brand, and it could be Jack Daniels, and they'll say you've got to make a cocktail with minimum 30 mils of Jack Daniels, and you pretty much create that cocktail, you enter it. They will then judge it, and then you'll get into a state final. You then win the state final, go into a national final, win the national final, and go global. But they're all different. It's just I love the creative aspect. I love presenting. I don't know. It's sort of that's my song.
You're a natural showman.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like that. Now I think when I start competing for this year, because I've started entering a few things, I think my drinks are way better than they were 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. So because you just keep evolving, I'm learning every day. Mm-hmm. So I'm really looking forward to having a crack at competing and so forth. So yeah, again, be good.
Yes, and one of my all-time favourites, every time I come to 18th Amendment, there's a treasure chest, and you open it up and the smoke pours out, and you've got this, what's the actual cocktail? I'm so obsessed with how it looks that I forget what I'm drinking.
Yeah, that's the Boardwalk Empress. So we love that. That's the side of it that I like. I love the theatrical side. So we've got drinks that come out in smoking boxes. We have drinks with liquid nitrogen. We've got a drink called the Thomas Edison, which was a concept that I'd held for probably 3 years and was going to use in a cocktail comp, where it's served up in a light bulb, and you chew on a button called a Szechuan button. Now, this is a plant that I taped to myself and smuggled into the country. Like if I had been on border force, I would have been done for it, and grew that plant for 3 years before I could actually put it on a menu, because the buttons and what happens is this special flower, when you chew on it, it feels like you're sucking on a 9-volt battery. So so you're drinking out of a light bulb. Yeah, you're drinking a light bulb, and your mouth's electrocuted and so forth. And it's off the menu at the moment because we ran out of the buttons and we're growing them again. So it's going to come back on the next menu. So stuff like that. We've got a drink called the Hidden Hooch and I love it. You go to the table and you put down this book with an empty glass on top and the customer just looks at it and goes, yeah. I go, here's your drink. And I walk off and I just sort of watch. I turn back, come back and I'll say, hey, like, we're a classy establishment. You're not allowed to scull your drinks. Like you drank it too quickly. I'm going to have to cut you off. And they'll go, no, but there was no drink in there. I go, nah. If you want to drink an 18th, you need to read the rule book.
Oh.
And they go, what? And they go, the rule book. And when they open up the book, the cocktail's in a hip flask in the book.
Oh my God.
You then pour into the glass, right? So
you have the best imagination.
I love all that stuff. It's awesome. And that's what, we've got drinks with bubbles on top that you pop the smoke with a mint smoke. And I love the gimmick and the novelty.
Oh.
It's kind of hard because we run out of stuff. It's been nearly 5 years now. So it's constantly trying to think of new things. And that does all your social media because every time people come in there, filming the smoking box, the bubble drink, the liquid nitrogen and so forth. So, yeah.
Gold. I love it. Now, I know we were talking about a lot of successful parts of your life, but I guess this being Unbreakable entrepreneurs, have you found, like even through COVID, were there times where, as a business person, you're really struggling in any way, or have you got the personality that can sort of rise above easily?
I've got the personality that can rise above easily, but I've got another side to me that people don't know. Like everybody, it's kind of, for example, last night, we went out to all the bars and I go to every venue and everyone knows who you are and they want to shout your shots and they want to talk to you and so forth, which is fantastic. But on the flip side, it's kind of like acting a lot because I have this persona. It's like the successful businessman, the entrepreneur and all that. But no, like the last couple of years, I've struggled. I've never had mental health issues ever. I grew up in a time where it didn't matter, like whatever, you had to work, right? So Dad was the type of person that said, you're coming to work and helping me. He was, looking back on it, was pretty brutal, like if you weren't holding the shifter for him when he was going to ask for it, he would pretty much throw it at you. It didn't matter if you were sick, you had to go to work. And it was always that, harden up, princess, get to work. I'm talking days of cloud nine where I sat and watched like a family member pass away, pretty much 8 hours in the hospital. She gave her last breath. And I went to work. I got glassed one night in the venue that I had and broken nose, broken hand, a bottle across the head. I super glued it together and DJ'd for the next 4 hours because that's what you do, Things are different now. I thought anxiety was a load of shit, I'll be honest with you. I thought depression was, come on, like, harden up, just do it. Mm. And I feel as though at this point it's kind of karma that it's come back to me because I now suffer from depression and anxiety, and especially the last couple of years. And it's you have to put on the front all the time. It's the party guy. It's the this and that, and it's hard. Like I'm on medication now. It's which I never thought I would be. I just went to the doctors yesterday and had to double my dose because pretty much the last 2 weeks I couldn't get out of bed. Mm. Really depressed, anxiety, crying. And it's the side of me that people don't see. And when we chatted last time and you said, I want to do a podcast, I said, you know what? I'm happy to talk about it, which I never have because I'm old school. I'm 50 years old. It's like you just have to keep moving on. But I'm not good. Yeah. Mm. So like hopefully these new meds will kick in and so forth. But I haven't been good for a while. It's just putting on a front. It's like acting a lot because you have to.
Yeah. Look, your honesty is amazing, because it will help others who, the first half of this interview, no one would ever have guessed that, George. You are the life of the party. So for you to be that honest is really, it's hard, but I know exactly what you've been through, because I've been through it too. And more, that's what helped me come through it, was when I'd hear that other people had felt those same feelings. You don't think you're going crazy. You think, okay, maybe this is a normal thing and it's just a period or a season of life. But when you're in it, there's nothing worse. So like for you to be fronting up, turning it on, I know what strength that takes. So yeah, it's incredible. And are you getting good help?
Yeah, I see a counsellor now pretty much every 2 weeks, which has been help. I walk now, which helps, a bit of exercise. I've been doing meditating, which has helped. I went away recently and I didn't do anything while I was away, and I've been pretty busy. So I literally, for the last probably 6-7 weeks, I haven't been walking and doing the meditating, and I just went into free fall again. So I thought that I was okay, and stupidly for me, I said, oh, I don't need one of these tablets, because I have one in the night and one in the morning, because I'm feeling great. And I halved it and said, I'm feeling good. And it was the worst thing I could have done. I just hit rock bottom, probably worse than I've ever been. I wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. And I've heard the saying, the black dog above you and that giant cloud. And I've been points in my life. I've had really low points in my life where I've invested wrongly and lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I remember the depression of that. But this is it's so overpowering. It's just, I feel as though it's a good thing that I've had it, because it now I'm more empathetic towards it, and I understand it. And I think differently. And I honestly believe it's karma, because I didn't respect it before. But I've got kids. If it wasn't for kids, sometimes the thoughts that have gone through my head, I would never do things because I have kids, and I would never want to hurt my family. But it's bloody horrible.
And sometimes those thoughts that you're talking about, they can come up, and you can get frightened by the fact that you're having these thoughts. But what those thoughts are often saying is just, you're so overwhelmed. It doesn't mean that you're actually going to do anything. It can just be just acknowledging to yourself that this is really overwhelming and tough. It sounds like everything you're doing, though, and I can relate to the same thing. You start feeling better, you lower your dose, or you go off it, and then it hits you again. But this is all learning. And someone told me once about the stages of recovery, and how it's up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and it's just trending up always. So when you have those down moments again, it's good to say, oh, hang on, but look where I've come from, look what I've learnt. And you're always putting in new skills that you'll use then for the rest of your life. So I feel if you're, my experience was that I had the terrible, terrible time in the late 20s. And then I learnt what happened to me, what my mind was doing to me to get me into that space, what I was saying to myself, all those sort of things. And then I learnt the tools that could get me out of it. But now, touch wood, it's been 20 years since that happened, and I've never felt those feelings at that level again. But I'm so acutely aware of what they feel like, and I have empathy, like what you're talking about, for anyone if they say they're feeling depressed or anxious, because I was like you. I knew someone who had depression. I thought, they're still smiling, they can't be too bad. They're still working, they're still smiling, toughen up like you. So
it's putting on a front. It's just it's hard. I haven't worked behind the bar in my venues probably for the last 2 years. And the reason is, for some reason, I get the worst anxiety about actually doing it. So I work security. Everyone always comes into the venues and goes and say, why are you working on the door? We want to come into... it's really hard for me to say that I'm kind of scared to go behind the bar. It's weird. Like, how can I put me in front of a crowd of 1,000 people presenting and stuff like that? No problem. But I have this huge, like, I don't know why I'm worried and scared to do it, because I know what I'm doing. I've been doing it for a long time, but now I'm dealing with that mental barrier of trying to get myself behind the bar, and people, they wouldn't believe that,
Yes.
you know, and they wouldn't, because it's so natural to me, but it's weird, and I don't know why. It's because
Sorry, is it the expectation that you think people will want you to put on a performance for them? Is it getting it right for the crowd? What do you think it is?
I don't know what it is. I think because I've had to shift away from the bar to do other roles in the venue. When I go and work behind the bar, I don't know where everything is now, because my team have got it set up for themselves. So I get the anxiety of, oh, where's the mint? Where's this? What's the garnish for that? And then having to ask my staff that, and then them look at me and go, man, how shit's this guy? He doesn't even know what everything is. They're his venues. And I think that sort of creates it. And I just think it's got to do with, it's just my mental health. Like, I just, it's crazy. Like, I've got a YouTube channel, right, which I started as soon as COVID started. It was my way to sort of keep busy and so forth. And I was filming like pretty much weekly, and I was obsessed by it. Like, I was really, and I think it's an ego thing too. I want to be, you know, known and stuff like that, which I'm not like that. It's weird, but I haven't filmed in 8 months.
Yeah, right.
Because I literally haven't been able to do it. I'm going to film next week. Like, I'm going to break it and do it. And it's weird. You know, I went to a function a couple of weeks ago, and it was a big hospitality function in Melbourne, and the amount of people that came up with a phone and my photo going, oh my God, is this you? I'm like, yeah. Oh, we love your channel. Can we get selfies? Can we get that? Even last night. Or I've been to Bright or Sydney, and people will serve a cocktail to the table and they'll go, I'll watch your channel and stuff like that. And I haven't filmed for 8 months because I just haven't been able to do it, because I'm mentally a train wreck. I'll be honest. I'm mentally a train wreck, and I need to snap out of that. And I don't know, like,
don't be hard on yourself with needing to snap out of it, because it's just simply not that easy. But what you're ticking all the boxes. You're exercising, you're seeing someone, you're taking medication. I'm sure you're keeping track of how you're speaking to yourself. And I think to put into context for people listening maybe as well, is that, like, and this is something we don't need to talk about at all, but you've gone through something big in the background, which there's a grief process that goes with any major life event like you've just gone through. So I think in the grieving process, you can feel like it's just this big weight that's never going to leave. And but keep reminding yourself that that is grief. If you look into grief, it's heavy, it's ugly, it hangs around, it comes and goes. But you will get through this. And as you say, you know, you don't care, but everyone that knows you loves you and cares deeply. So you've got to keep remembering all that as well. And I know you're not at that point, but it's just like people need to remind each other how much the person in front of them means to them, because I don't think we say it enough, do we?
We don't, because, and especially middle-aged men, it's embarrassing. I don't like, my staff are over here listening, and they're probably going, what the hell? You know, I can't talk about it. I talk about it to my daughters who are in their 20s and stuff like that. And I think I've had mental health issues my whole life. It's only now that I realize I thought anxiety was normal. You know, like, if I've got a 10 o'clock meeting and I'm not there at 9:30, I'm literally like popping. I'm like agitated and stressed. I have to, that's anxiety, but I just didn't know. It's not until I was around people with anxiety and depression that I had to learn what it's like. And then as I said, then I started having it, and it's it's horrible. It's horrible because you got to, it's like Anthony Bourdain, right? Like, you look at him and how he had the best life, like traveling around the world doing this and that, and he had all these demons that no one sort of knew about, and as men, and that's why I'm talking about it today. We need to, especially guys my age. I think people in their 20s now, it's kind of recognized now. It's okay.
And you doing this is so powerful. This gives permission to your staff that are listening in the background. You don't know, like, they might walk in all bubbly and happy, but no one knows, do they, what's going on behind the scenes? So you have just given people a huge gift in being so honest. And it's George and I have been speaking about a potential project that we might be doing together, but I think this could be part of that project, George, just throwing it out there. So watch this space. Josh has got a lot more to come, and it's, you know what the difference is? It'll be you, real, authentic you, and, you know, you might turn up bright and shiny one day and then real and not feeling great the next day, and we'll be honest about it, because that's what my goal in life is, to get, you know, if you can get these conversations happening as much as possible, it makes life easier on everyone, even when they're in the thick of the hardest stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And things like social media, and it's, the awareness is just continuing to grow, you know, like destination happiness and stuff like that. I'm right into the resilience project at the moment, and the word's getting out, which is great. We've got to break that. I think where we've got to break is people my age, you know, that over 40s and that, and just say, hey, you know, like, it's okay to talk about it. And it's embarrassing for me, like the fact that 2 days ago I was laying in bed, I had my kids, I literally could not get out of bed. They were running around the house, running amok, and I just couldn't get up, and I was crying all day. And I would have never ever said that a year ago, two years ago, and so forth. But I'm sure I'm not the only one. And as guys, you've got to probably talk about it to people and that. And it's confronting to say it. It's because people, I'm pretty sure people will watch this podcast will say, no, what the hell, you know? But
oh, look, I think if anyone who's gone through our life at the moment, if anyone hasn't experienced anxiety or some level of depression, I think they might be robots because it's crazy times. But that's where we've got to be there for each other. We've got to have more open conversations. We've got to ask for help when we need it, and just have each other's back. And that's what I love about being in the Geelong Chamber and the Geelong community in general, is that I feel like it is a pretty tight-knit community, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just, I don't know. It's a hard subject for me to talk about, because I still can't fully comprehend it, and I sit back a lot of times and go, I can't believe that this is happening. But for those that are listeners in the Chamber of Commerce and stuff, if you're having issues, like, don't be scared to talk about it. And
and keep researching. I think when I was at my absolute rock bottom, and I was like you, I couldn't leave the house. You can leave the house. I couldn't leave the house. Couldn't drive. I was a mess. And all I did was think, okay, I've got to research how to be happy. So I just started studying whatever, like every self-help book I could get my hands on. I had no energy, I just was hardly functioning, but I knew I had to learn how to understand my mind. How did my mind get to this place? How can I get it out of it, and how can I stay out of it? So just research, I reckon, is the key. And being kind to yourself, self-compassion, giving yourself a hug and saying it's okay, you've gone through some huge stuff, and just not cracking the whip, not saying I should be better by now and I shouldn't be through this as fast as I can. Just everything has a season, and then you get through it. It takes time, and then you come out the other side and you're stronger, and you go, I know why I went through that. It's hard to even think like this at the moment, but I'm actually grateful for what I went through back in my 20s, even though I would never wish it on my worst enemy, because it made me so much more stronger, resilient, and have an empathy that I would never have had. So, George, you got this. You got this, and keep talking. We'll keep talking, and yeah. So, and aside from that, are you still thinking like you want to stay in the bar industry and move forward with it, or are you just sort of taking a day at a time?
No. I'll stay in it. I've got to try to get back into working. I struggle to get to work now, like mentally and so forth. So it's really just trying to get back into it. But yeah, look, we've got other things coming. There's another venue that's going to open up soon, and so forth. And my staff are really supportive. So I'm not on a roster. I turn up when I do, and so forth. So really, for me, it's more concentrating on myself a bit and trying to acknowledge what's going on, and I'm right down the whole mindfulness, gratitude, empathy. I'm trying to be more empathetic, because now I do look back at how I've been, and I generally was a robot, and I lacked empathy, and I've hurt people that I've cared about, and it's like, as I said, it's that karma coming back to me, and realizing that, yeah, on paper I look fantastic, but I was a shit person, and I'm just at that point in my life now where it's like, take a look back and go, hey, you need to change the way you are, and that's all I'm trying to do now, is I just want to be a better person.
And that's where it all starts. And see, as you say, from the outside, everyone would say George is an excellent person, and you are, and we've all done stuff that we're not proud of. So once again, don't be hard on yourself, and know that you're adored. So anyway, I'm not going to hold you up any longer. You've been so amazing to talk about the highs and lows, and that is the definition of what this podcast is about, Unbreakable Entrepreneurs. So you're a bloody legend, Gorge Camorra.
Thank you, and thank you to you. Like when I saw that you had the new role with the Chamber, helping with mental health, it was something that I said, what a great idea. So I'm hoping that a lot of other business owners and entrepreneurs will reach out to you and chat, because it really does help. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, and we will be seeing each other very, very soon again.
Okay. Then. Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye.
I'm Angie Hilton, and thanks for listening to Unbreakable Entrepreneurs Podcast. If you've enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and head to geelongchamber.com.au for more wellbeing tips. This has been brought to you by the Geelong Chamber of Commerce and the Partners in Wellbeing program.